Welcome to the Classy Counsel, Reflections for the Wise and Elegant Lady. I am Nadia, your elegance coach, and in this weekly podcast, I bring you insights on how to cultivate the attributes of a lady that is elegant and not only elevated in terms of appearance, but also on a much deeper level, spiritually elevated. You'll find cross-references made with verses from the Bible and from other sources of wisdom. Whether you are a beginner or advanced in your journey towards the most elegant version of yourself, a curious learner, or simply looking for some more elegant mindset inspiration, you are in the right place. So, grab your favorite beverage, sit back, and join me on this journey of discovery and growth. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Self-control is true strength. And this is a quote from Lao Tzu. Personal development is defined as a continuous process of learning and growth, which aims to improve one's knowledge, skills, and human qualities. Synonyms can be development, evolution, and progress. Opposites, meanwhile, include stagnation, immobility, and regression. Cultivating the desire for development in your life as an elegant, wise woman has many benefits. First, it improves self-confidence. Self-confidence is truly a pillar in our character. We cannot do much if we have little or no self-confidence. This is why it is important to pay attention to the way we speak and act with children, because this will be decisive in their growth until adulthood. Our words and actions toward them are the planting of seeds that germinate and make them what they become. The proof is that we talk a lot about the fact that most of our problems as adults have their roots in childhood. Fortunately, self-confidence can be worked on. If you haven't listened to the previous episode about self-confidence, I invite you to listen to it because I share ways to cultivate it. Know that by learning and progressing, we nourish our sense of worth and competence. Number two, the benefits can also be development of new skills. Acquiring new knowledge and skills allows us to adapt to the changes that are inevitable in life's journey and to seize new opportunities. Developing skills also means establishing one's place in a group on a large or small scale, family, community, nation, because developing one's skills means increasing one's efficiency, usefulness for oneself, but especially for others, to others. Third benefits, it's broadening horizons. Cultivating ourselves and exploring new areas allows us to better understand the world around us and enrich our vision of life. When we are able to have more perspective, we have the ability to put things into perspective, to multiply our resources. And when I talk about resources, it's almost everything you can imagine. Sources of inspiration, sources of creativity, sources of peace, sources of solutions. This necessarily makes us more self-confident. And the fourth and last benefits I can think of, it increases the well-being and personal satisfaction. This feeling that you are constantly developing provides a sense of joy and accomplishment. For my part, personal development is a priority in my life. Every day, I want to become a better person than I was the day before. I am not in competition with others. I think I've already mentioned that I find it doesn't make sense really to be in competition with others because we are all different. There is a quote, I believe, that says something in a line that you don't put a fish against an eagle to judge the ability to swim or something like that. But you get the idea that we are not in competition. So I'm not talking about, sports. Of course you have sports competition, but that's the idea. You're just trying to judge a certain ability between people who, have the same abilities and skills. But I'm talking for life in general. We cannot be in competition for life, in the life in general, because we are all different and we don't have all the same gifts. And that's the thing with gifts. If it's called gift, it's because we have to exchange it with others. What would it be? What would be the benefits of a world with people who have the same gift? There's no interaction, no exchanges, no evolution, no development if we're all the same. So you get the idea. There's no competition. I'm not competing with people, I'm competing with myself. I look at the person I was yesterday and I compare it to today. And I keep in mind, for the future, I see the woman I want to become. At no time can there be competition with another individual. And when I see and realize the work accomplished, the improvements established in certain areas of my life, I can sit down and be proud of myself. And that gives me great satisfaction. And that's this whole point, is satisfaction. Now, how can you actually develop yourself? By what means? Okay, so personal development can manifest itself in different ways in the life of an elegant woman. Educate yourself through reading inspiring and informative books. But I advise you to choose themes and formats, supports that make you happy to start. If personal development is something that does not initially attract you, it can be anything. Like, I'm just going to give you examples, but really there's so much more. You have, medieval history, learning Latin, learning Spanish, quantum physics, theology, polytheistic religions, opera, anatomy, philosophy, arts, writing, calligraphy, music, etc. And when I talk about formats, choose media with which you feel attracted and comfortable. It could be classic books, digital books, audiobooks, even comics. Little story here. I went to visit my uncle in Paris, and it was like, I have this comics collection here. I think you're going to like it. I told him, I haven't read any comics in years. Like, the last time I read comics, I was a teenager. I said, no. It's really different. Look at it. It's not like a comic it's not only entertainment. It is entertainment, but it's different. So I started reading it, and I think I binge read it in like 2 hours, because the collection, it was like 4 or 5 comics. It was so enriching, enlightening. It was philosophy with images, but I gained something out of it, and I felt my soul was drinking something so good. I was surprised. You know what? This is to tell you, you could be surprised of the format sometimes. So, going back to what I was saying, you can choose anything, any support. It could be free online videos via YouTube, for example. Could be podcast, subscribing to masterclasses or webinars. I did quite a lot of webinars at some point to learn more about etiquette, and it was really agreeable. Could be subscribing to magazines, or not even subscribing, just go and buy one magazine that you like. More or less short or long-term training, possibly return to university. Why not? Go to conferences, participate in workshops, be part of a book club in person or online. Also Netflix, they have some great documentaries, Anyway, so these are just examples, and many sources of knowledge you can have. Second thing, practice a sport or artistic activity. I mentioned it earlier. Making music is a good way of personal development. Just like sports, it teaches you discipline and patience. You discover skills that lie dormant within you, because these activities push us to go further and further through constant work. We see ourselves evolving, and that does a lot of good. We deploy our creativity and expressiveness through these activities. Third, this is the same for learning a new language. You develop your brain to think differently, to broaden your way of thinking. When you speak another language fluently, you understand another way of seeing, of thinking. Many languages have words that do not exist in others simply because the way of thinking is different. The grammar is different. The expressions are different. I have an example that comes to mind is in Arabic. I don't speak Arabic, but I studied back in the days. In Arabic, they don't say smoking a cigarette. They say drinking a cigarette. Literally, smoking doesn't exist in Arabic. It's crazy. Anyways, speaking different languages put the brain through quite a bit of gymnastics. And we know that gymnastics is good for your health. Number 4, you can also get involved in voluntary service. This is part of personal development because it pushes you to go beyond yourself. And that's interesting because when we talk about personal development, it's really, well, personal. You're really kind of self-centered. You're thinking of you and you're nourishing yourself. But here, we extend ourselves to the others. It's important to develop the sense of sharing, the sense of community, because the day you understand that you are an individual in your own right, but above all, you are a part of something bigger than yourself, your perception of life is no longer the same. Your life makes more sense. I have always said the key to happiness lies in others. It is also in us because for someone we are others, but for us it is in the others. All right, last way to develop yourself is traveling and discovering new cultures. And again, it's a bit like learning another language. You realize that there are other perceptions of life. For example, the smile does not have the same value or meaning depending on the culture. In France, it is polite to smile at a stranger. For Russians, it is impolite because it is intrusive. It's interesting to understand that what we know is not the absolute truth because that's our way of doing things, are not universal ways. There is not a group that is right and there is not a group that is wrong. It's simply different. All right, so I'm going to share with you some advice as little tips to help you implement all of this without feeling overwhelmed. First is to set clear and precise objectives. Let's say you pick learning a new language. That would be, okay, I want to be fluent and have a little conversation in 1 year. Okay, so that's a clear and precise objectives. Then you develop an action plan and follow it rigorously. That could look like I download the Duolingo app. I work on it every day, 20 minutes. I watch TV shows in that language once or twice a week. And in 6 months from now, after doing all this, constantly every day, being, regular, I will start writing little texts and I will start reading bilingual books. That could look like this. That's an action plan. Then I encourage you to be disciplined and persistent. Don't be afraid of failure and learn from your mistakes. Be gentle with you. Be gentle with yourself, okay? Surround yourself with positive and inspiring people. Celebrate your successes, even the smallest one. Let's say, today I've learned 10 new words, and you can celebrate that. That's good. Bonus, for fun and empowering personal development, try keeping a gratitude journal, practicing meditation, or setting yourself a personal challenge. Remember that the most important thing is to have fun and enjoy the trip. And this is a disclaimer here. I'm speaking to ultra perfectionists. I'm not blaming you guys because I'm part of your team. Be careful not to fall into over-development What I mean by overdevelopment is really too much information, too much knowledge, to the point where you feel overwhelmed and you're reaching burnout, because this is counterproductive, where you no longer feel like you are moving forward because you cannot put everything into practice. You have to be wise in your approach to knowledge. And we saw in a previous episode of this podcast, the one about wisdom, accumulating knowledge is only really useful if you apply it. So if you're getting too much knowledge, if you're doing too much, you cannot apply everything, and it's going to be frustrating. Your development project should be an enjoyable process, so go at your own pace. Choose a reasonable amount of subject to study, and choose subjects that excite you, that, you feel empowered and you feel nourished when you get in there. I will end this podcast today with a biblical verse that advocates the search of self-development and growth. It's in Proverbs chapter 15, verse 14. An intelligent heart seeks knowledge. If you liked this podcast on personal development, if you have any questions or suggestions, don't hesitate to leave me a comment, a like, or a share. If you also like words of affirmation for you to declare every day, on my YouTube channel, Madame Kabongo, there is a playlist, Affirmations for the Elegant Woman, with a video specifically on personal development. For even more advices to become the best version of yourself on etiquette, elegance, communication, you can follow me on Instagram and YouTube. You will always find me under the name Madame Kabongo. Thank you, take good care of yourself, and see you next week.